Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Cannabis Review. I'm delighted on this episode to be joining the recently crowned Canada's top grower, Alexandre Gauthier, who's the Vice President of R&D and the Director of Cultivation at renowned Origine Nature in Quebec and Canada. How are you keeping today, Alexandre?
I'm doing good. Big thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited to be on the Cannabis Review and be able to share, the industry of cannabis worldwide finally.
Delighted to talk to you, mate. Delighted to talk to you. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get great wealth of information from this episode. Do you maybe want to give everybody a quick little brief run through, maybe 30 seconds, 60 seconds of how you ended up at Origine Nature and your history in the industry?
Absolutely. So I have over 17 years of cannabis experience. I did start in Europe, France, Holland, Belgium, and then I came back to Canada. Of course, the laws in Canada allowed for a medical license. I quickly help people go that had a medical situation, basically acquire their license and grow their own medicine. From there, I evolved to Aurora Cannabis. That was strictly medical at that time. We did the first GACP, GMP conversion, sent some of the first cannabis to Germany, Italy, and so on. From there, I moved on to Tile Health Solution, where we had more of a medical focus towards veterans. As well as having a veterinarian on the board. So we were very inclined towards that. We moved on to topical and gummies line, which require a lot less biomass. My passion is cultivation. So at that point, I joined the Origine Nature team, which is, my the one I really love. It was really a shot to the heart when I saw that team. And at Origine Nature, it's really a team of passionate people. Everybody loves cannabis. Everybody understands cannabis. And that's why I think that's the secret of doing it well, is actually being passionate about cannabis at all the levels in the company.
Thank you very much. It's a wealth of information you seem to possess. I'm going to jump straight on to the first topic I want to talk about, and it's basically been crowned Canada's top grower. There's a number of obviously different factors that one needs to take in consideration when you're judging something like this: sustainability, innovation, profitability. How hard is it to keep all of these metrics at the upper echelon so your business is thriving? Because surely one or two of those being out of place would negate a company fitting into the spectrum that you guys have fit into.
Absolutely. So it was really the complete puzzle that was lucky enough. So first off, Canada Top Grower for me is a team award. It's not an individual award. It's really thanks to the entire team that we got it. And really what set us apart was our operational excellence. Understanding the workflow from seed to sell, growing the cannabis, drying the cannabis, processing the cannabis, packaging it, getting it to stores, getting it to medical clients and other retailers. And that's where we were awarded. So what you need to understand with cannabis and the entire workflow is cannabis is one of the plants that reacts and adapts the most to its environment. So getting consistency and getting a consistent product is extremely hard. Because when you're growing outdoor, when you're growing indoor, anything like a piece of equipment failing or fluctuation in the temperature, in the humidity, in the irrigation will destandardize your entire crop and your results. So being able to cultivate rooms that put out a product that's standardized time and time again is what got us that award. And that award came through simply outworking everyone, in the sense that we do our checks every day. We rely on one another. We work strongly with the team. At Origine Nature, we have 4 core values, which is family, street smart, passion, and social consciousness. Everything we do, how we promote, how we hire, revolves around this. We also implement a system where we get the information from the bottom and not from the top down. So we strongly believe that the experts in the field are the one actually doing the work. So we do have meetings every week where everybody has to be open and honest. And we're here to make things better. Everybody can have a good idea. Everybody can participate. We're not here to attack anyone. We're here to call out the problems and find solutions together. And that's what made us that strong, is that everybody is passionate. Everybody is involved. Everybody understands the process. And we've been refining that process to make it as efficient and as consistent as possible. And that comes with a true understanding of cannabis, also at the consumption level. If you only treat cannabis as a new good, like any other good that you would just package and sell and expect people to buy, it will not work. Cannabis is, I would say, the illegal culture that is the strongest and the most developed in the world since easily the 1970s. You cannot take consumers for idiots. You cannot tell them what they're supposed to be consuming. So we took the time to listen to the consumers and basically create a product that they requested, and then was able to deliver it consistently time and time again. And that's where we got awarded Canada Top Grower. We don't grow better cannabis than other people. We grow the right cannabis at the right quality, and then because of our workflow, we're able to sell it at the right price point. It's very important to understand there is no bad cannabis, there's only badly priced cannabis.
Very interesting point, my friend. Very interesting point. So when it goes to picking a team, let's say to start a cultivation operation, what are the two things? Like, let's say if you're opening up a restaurant, it's probably going to be the chef and the maitre d'. What are the like maybe two biggest positions that you think need to be filled in a top tier cultivation facility?
So I would say there's more than two, because that's the thing. The cannabis facility is a complete machinery, and if one of the step doesn't work, nothing works. Your QA, quality insurance person, that is responsible for everything, that standard operating procedure, is extremely important. We are dealing with pharmaceutical grade production levels for a product that people are going to be smoking or ingesting. Their safety is at risk. Now, this is a new industry. If you have the wrong QA, because a QA can be legally responsible for what happens, and you need to have a QA that's willing to try to make things work for the company and not simply blatantly protect themselves at the small little risk factor that could come along because they do not fully understand cannabis. A wrong QAP can cost you millions of dollars and block your entire facility. So the QAP is key. You need the right QAP that's going to understand cannabis, and they don't need to know cannabis, but they need to be willing to understand cannabis and make that step. Your master grower, and not in the part that he's a legendary grower. Often good basement grower do terrible transition to the legal market, because you need to realize that we're not a cannabis company. We're a CPG company, a consumer packaged good company, right? So understanding the workflow, understanding the regulation, having someone that's willing to read the rule book and then play with that rule book and play with the rules to get the best out of it is the best. If you get a grower that does incredible product in his basement but doesn't understand cost of production, operational workflow, you're going to end up with techniques that don't make sense, that require way too much personnel to achieve. And at the end of the day, in cannabis, your cost of production, the biggest cost is the salaries. The more you have people, the higher you produce, the higher you need to sell your product. While your product might be good if you're selling it at $25 per tree and a half, if you're selling it at 45, it's suddenly not as good. So there's that fine balance, but you are dealing with a lot more equipment technology. So when you find someone that's truly passionate, willing to learn, understand how to do proper tests without putting in jeopardy the entire facility. Like if you're running new nutrients, you don't run that in your big commercial room that's supposed to be selling next week. You're going to have test rooms or so on. So the master grower, the QAP, the VP of operation is extremely important, because once the growing is done and we process the product, it's trimmed. Well, it still needs to be packaged in a timely manner with the right environmental condition as to not damage the product during that step, and then dispatch to the retailers so it's sold fresh. You don't want to sell 4 or 6 months old cannabis. You want to sell maximum, 5 to 8 weeks old cannabis, because you want a little bit of curing to ensure that there's been the transformation from, let's say, the chlorophyll to its gaseous form, so it doesn't taste and smell like hay. So there is a certain time, but you don't really want to go over that, because after it's cannabis degradation, and it's an herb. It's not made to be consumed when it's old, right? So the workflow that comes after the entire cannabis growing and processing is just as important. Because if we're not selling the product, my dry rooms are filled and my trim rooms are filled. If that's filled, I can't harvest, right? So if we're not selling, we can't grow, and everything's linked together. So those three positions, as well as the CEO, if he doesn't care about cannabis, and he's only treating this as another business venture, and it's just like any other CPG, that's probably a big problem. Cannabis is not like any other CPG, and the CEO and the leadership team needs to understand that and needs to respect the very, very strong culture and knowledge base that exists in every single country in the world regarding cannabis. So when those four positions align and truly understand the workflow and the rule book that are given by government on how to grow cannabis, then that's how you will perform.
Amazing. Incredible insights into how a real operation is to run. I'm going to jump on to the next topic I want to talk about. You guys are based in Quebec. You hear a lot of noise over in Europe about craft growers taking market share from the larger MSOs. Is this the case in the Canadian market? And what's like the Quebec cultivation overview look like for you guys?
Well, I would say absolutely. In Canada, we are considered craft grower. We are craft growers. We only produce about 8 to 9 tons per year. So this is a smaller size facility for Canada. And yes, it's absolutely happening. So what we're seeing is, I mean, a lot of big companies that had a lot of money early on, but you see the operational issues that I've been pretty much listing since the beginning of the podcast. And that's where there's been a big disconnection. Now, you need to understand the history of Quebec and Canada to understand why those micros and those craft growers are now taking the business share, right? We had medical license since 2001, allowing us to grow X amount of plants. Electricity is dirt cheap here. We pay 3 cents per kilowatt hour, and there's a lot of land. On the south of us, there was the entire United States looking for products. So historically speaking, on the West Coast, I like to say what happened is there was a consumption expertise that was born because everybody could throw seeds and grow cannabis plants in their backyard because the climate was very nice. And they really understood more, how to be sommeliers. Versus on the East Coast, we were always extremely operational. People were doing it for the money. People were doing it for mass production. We were the only supplier for all of East Canada and all of the east of the United States. When I say we, I don't say me. I mean Quebecers that were in the black market at that moment. And that's where an expertise of how to produce very efficiently with minimum cost and very good technique was born. And that's where you're seeing very strong LPs, licensed producer, come out of Quebec. And those smaller ones, basically when legalization happened, all eyes were on Canada, right? So we started with a very restrictive legalization because we needed to ensure safety of consumers. And then we're alleviating regulation as we go, right? So as those regulations are alleviated, you need less capital to enter the cannabis industry. And that's where you see the smaller player that have rooted legacy experience come in and really put out an amazing product at some very good price segments that allow the consumers to move to those products and truly appreciate them. And that's where the market shares are moving away from mass production, where quality is not necessarily understood or controlled. The price point doesn't necessarily make sense. And, when we process cannabis, we do everything by hand. Every single step, we harvest by hand, we bug by hand, trim by hand, package by hand. Every single one of those steps is a quality control step for us. We ensure that the product that goes out is going to be up to our standard. When you're dealing with mass production, it's all automatized, big machines, everything gets destroyed, the product gets damaged, dried out, so on. And that's where the consumers are not idiots. They understand cannabis, they're knowledgeable cannabis, and they're simply switching over to the better product at the right price.
Amazing. Before I let you go, I'd be remiss to ask, what's your favorite strain or your favorite genetics or favorite flavor that you've ever had in your time?
Honestly, I have so many. It depends on the time of the day. I'm a big hash smoker. I truly enjoy hash. I've had some amazing hash from some good hash masters. But as far as strain goes, I'm more old school. I don't like cannabis that has extremely strong potency, right? The race to the highest THC, in my opinion, is just promoting drug abuse. You shouldn't be looking for 30% THC. I don't know. I enjoy smoking also. But the original Amnesia Core Cut or the Amnesia Super Silver Haze Pheno or the Exodus Cheese that came out of the UK are strains that I absolutely love. And if anybody listening to that podcast still has the Exodus cheese cut, I would love to get it. I would be very happy. But yeah, I love the old school strains with the right terp profile that are enjoyable to smoke. I don't like to. I'm not chasing to be super high. I
Yeah.
chase that entourage experience with the terpene and really appreciating the moment when I'm consuming it, rather to see it. When I'm smoking 30%, for me, that's like pounding shooters of vodka, right? Well, I prefer a fine wine.
Yeah, same over here. You've got a lot of nature and outdoor activity over here that I think a lot of cannabis consumers here prefer a lighter, heavier THC quantity and something that could be used during a daily basis while out enjoying activities with their friends. I could talk to you all day, mate. I think you've got a wealth of information. We'll have to get part two of this in maybe in the next 6 months so you can update us on all the amazing things Origine Nature are getting up to. But for now, thank you very much for taking your time to do this, Alex.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. I'm always happy to come back on the show, whatever you guys need. It's one of our mission to educate and help the industry. So I'm here for that. Whatever you guys need, you can always reach out to Origin Nature.
Thank you very much. Well, we've got a Cannabis Summit on 25th of February here in Ireland, but it's all the lawyers and the policymakers and the economists first. We're going to have a patient-focused one with the top growers, and we'd love to be able to bring you back over to Dublin, Ireland to help showcase your knowledge and talent to everybody.
I would love that.
Great stuff. You have a great day, my friend, and we'll chat to you very soon.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.